What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to another podcast. It's been a while. It's been a minute.
It's been
like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's my fault because I got COVID.
Ooh.
So, but now we're back. We're ready.
How was it?
COVID was not great.
No.
The quarantine was probably the worst.
Yeah.
Quarantining is not good for the soul. That's what I keep telling
It really
people.
isn't.
It's not.
I was talking to somebody yesterday who was telling me that it's just like this season that we were in isolation-wise is really hard.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Not fun.
When Jordan and I went through it, it was tough too.
Yeah,
I didn't. No.
Yeah, no. But so Johnny, question for you.
Answer for you.
What's your favorite season?
I would say fall.
Bro, let's go.
Like
we're in fall right now.
Right now, like the weather started to change where you could open up your windows and you're not you're not too hot.
Well, you're not letting hot air in.
Right, and it's just like that perfect balance. Mm-hmm. And I just love like when you wake up and you have the cool fall air and it's like a little crisp, but it's not too cold. I love that. And I like wearing different clothes, like sweatshirts, hoodies,
flannels
over sweatshirts, which is
classic.
I don't know if that's still like a thing.
Doesn't matter. I'm doing it. I don't care. I'm freaking doing it. But yeah.
What's yours?
Oh, definitely fall.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, my birthday's in the summer, so it's tempting to say summer. And summer's like, you go on vacations, and that's all fun and stuff.
I find summer's too busy.
Yeah, I got to say fall. Fall. Hannah's birthday's in the fall. Our anniversary's in the fall. And I love the weather. I love dressing warm and looking fresher than a mug.
I like the first snowfall of the year. Like, that's my favorite one.
See, to me, that's like, now we're downhill.
Yeah, but I love snow.
No.
I do. No, I like snow.
No,
playing in the snow. I don't like driving in it though.
Playing football in the snow is fun. That's nostalgic for me for sure.
Why? Thanksgiving? Football Thanksgiving or just
like chucking a football around in the snow.
With the big gloves on?
Yeah, it's a good time.
Can't even get a grip. You just like grip it.
It's like a good time, and the ball rolls in the snow, and it like picks up the snow, and so then you have to hit the snow.
A lot of fumbles.
It's fun. Just playing catch, diving in the snow, whatever. Anyway,
it's fun.
So last time we did our podcast, I told my story, and now we're gonna hear from Johnny and his story. Yeah. Which I'm really excited to hear again. I mean, I've heard your story before.
Yeah.
But I'm also excited for people to hear it because I think it'll relate to a lot of you, and it'll just be good because we get to know you better too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's funny because last night, Tess, our intern, she was like, Johnny, you're the saint or whatever, and I'm like,
you're the saint?
Yeah, like she was talking to two people and she was telling about her past and her story.
Oh, sure.
And she was like, yeah, and Johnny was like a saint. And I'm like, not really. And it's funny because you look back, like, because when I came to know Jesus, I was a freshman in college, and I'll get there. But like, the person, your old self, is just kind of like forgotten and gone. Yeah. And it's crazy that that just shows the transforming work of the gospel. And I think that's super cool. And it's a good reflection of or not reflection, but a reminder of this is where I've brought you from, and this is where you're going. Yep. And it's a slow process.
Yep. It is a slow process. Yeah.
And so anyway, I'll start with, Blaze started about where he grew up. I grew up in Charles City, Iowa, which actually Charles City, Iowa was on ESPN.
It's famous.
Yesterday. Yeah. Because I think it was Mario Hofer, who is one of my mom's very good friends' adopted son, saw a kid who was hurt on the football field, and he actually I think it was a calf injury or a cramp or something, and he stretched out his cramp, and so ESPN got a picture of that and then put it up on ESPN, and then he went on, he got interviewed by somebody, which was super cool. So
is it a Today Show or something?
Yeah. It was something, I don't know what it was, but
Charles City's on the map.
Charles City's on the map, which is so funny to me because
it's small, right? It's it's
about 7,000 people. Yeah. So, and I think it's actually getting smaller. I'm not 100% sure, but grew up. That's northeast Iowa. Grew up there. Was involved in just about everything, as well as church. My mom was basically, because we were such a small church, she ran all of the women's Bible studies and everything like that. And my dad played on the worship team every weekend. He played the electric guitar and he just rips it on there, and it's super fun. Like we go home and he plugs it into his amp and he just shreds, and it's fun. Awesome. But we were there when I was a kid. We went to church every Sunday, both services. So I was the kid in the front row who sat and listened to 2 straight messages with ADHD, could not stay focused, was like nudging my brother and my sisters, and was just being a nuisance. And my mom would rip off pieces of paper from her journal and hand it to us, and so we would have to like take notes. And so I'd listen to our lead pastor's name is Kent. I'd listen to Kent's message, and I'd get like the first like intro, write it down, so I'd have something to show my mom.
Yeah.
So if she was like, "Did you take notes?" I'm like, "Yeah, I totally took notes. Here it is."
Yeah.
And I'm sure she knew that I was just a twerp, but it was fun, and had a great community around us. Our lead pastor actually lives here in Omaha now, and he just was really had a big focus on community, had a big focus on small groups, and so our church was like really involved in the community and really involved with like there was the Salvation Army, so we'd pack stuff and do stuff for them, and then work with overseas mission trips in like Taiwan and stuff like that. So my family was really involved with the church, and I was kind of the good church boy who was naughty. Mm-hmm. And so I would go to Wednesday night programming and get kicked out of small group a lot because, and I don't think it was because I was deliberately being naughty. I just think I couldn't stop talking. Like I couldn't stop talking. I would sit next to my best friend Bob, who, if you're in middle school or probably in high school, you know who Bob is. But I would sit next to Bob and I would just like distract everybody. And he was an instigator too. So he'd say, "Johnny, you do this." And I'm like, "All right, I'll do it." And I'd get caught. And our small group leader, Doug, who we always joked that he was from the time with the one-room schoolhouses because he was an old guy. Nice. We put him through a lot. But he would just like end up, kicking me out if I was naughty. And so like was just very, I don't know if like a PK would be the word you would use, but an honorary PK, like the kid that was always there. And so it was just kind of my life growing up at the church. It was kind of like our second home. And then as I started to get older, I started to really get involved with just everybody else who wasn't going to church.
This is like middle school, high school?
Middle school, I think I still was kind of had a good core group of friends that we went to church every Wednesday and Sunday and just, really tight. But in high school, things started to change because I was pretty good at sports. In a small town, you play every sport. Mm-hmm. Like you don't, like in Omaha, I think we have to like pick your sport by the time you're a certain age or whatever. You don't get to.
Yeah, if you're a dual athlete, like
it's pretty rare.
It's pretty rare, yeah.
And for us in a small town, you played every sport. So I even ran track for a little while, and I was not a track runner. Yeah, giving that a little fist bump there. But
I hate track, dude.
I hated track. I
just run. Like why?
It doesn't make sense to me.
Like,
I don't. I know
if you
run track, great for you.
Yeah, but really. I respect you a lot, but
no, running's hard. Yeah. Like cross country, I have a little bit more like of an understanding of like, like there's just some mental toughness and you're just gonna run. But like for track, I don't know, it's just different. Anyway, but like you played every sport, and so I played football until I was a junior and started having concussion issues. I played baseball all throughout high school. I wrestled until my senior year, and so I just was involved in a lot of things, which put me in a lot of different people groups and friend groups, and was really just kind of like a chameleon when it came to what I was a part of. But the sport that I was really involved in was wrestling. And that was a sport that had been in my family from the time I was, born. And my dad was a very good wrestler. My grandpa was a very good wrestler. And my brother was a really good wrestler too. And so for me, that was kind of like my identity. Even though I played a lot of sports.
Yeah, that was the one.
Baseball, I was never going to go to college and play baseball. Yeah. I didn't have a good enough arm. I was, I think, a decent hitter, but I wasn't like college level material. And football, I'm 5'8", so unless I'm Darren Sproles.
Slot receiver.
Yeah, man, no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
But in wrestling, like you cut your weight and you get to a certain point where you weigh in, and the person across from you is weighed in at relatively the same weight, and so size didn't really matter. And I was pretty good. My senior year, I was ranked second in the state. And so, had a decent chance to go to college to wrestle.
And Iowa's a huge wrestling state.
Yeah, it's hard to explain how important it is in the state of Iowa to wrestle.
Yeah.
Like, I went to the Nebraska state tournament. It's good size, but like
fun.
The state finals for Iowa high school wrestling, like, it's in Wells Fargo Arena in Des Moines, and it is
packed,
sold out.
Yeah.
Like, it's packed out,
yeah.
and they narrow it from 8 mats to 3 mats, and you're on this, like,
oh wow,
it's intense. Like, there's a huge adrenaline rush. But my junior year, I got to the semifinals and then lost, and then didn't really try, and so I was really wanting to rewrite that wrong my senior year, and I was 2, the other guy was 1, and so we had wrestled on a Saturday, and he got me. And I think we were going to wrestle like 3 times before the state tournament, but we were going to wrestle that following Tuesday, and I was working out with my coach, getting ready, and I took a shot, and I hit my head on his knee and just blacked out. And I had concussion issues from the time I was in 6th grade. I think 6th grade was my second concussion, and I had one my freshman year, my sophomore year, and my junior year. So going into my senior year, which is the reason I didn't play football, like, if I got one more, I was pretty sure they were going to tell me I had to be done.
Yeah.
And so I stopped playing football, and I was very cautious as far as, like, always wearing my headgear and mouth guard, because the mouth guard's a really big reason that you don't get concussions, because, anyway, that's science stuff. We don't need to talk about that. But, and so I was wrestling my coach, and I blacked out, and immediately I knew I got a concussion because I couldn't really see straight. I didn't really have a good, like, knowledge of I knew where I was, but I didn't really understand what was going on. And so I, sat out the rest of practice, showered up, got home, and my mom tried to have me read in a textbook, like, just some words. And my brain couldn't focus, my mind couldn't focus, and so I knew it was pretty bad. And I had some minor concussions that I think, like, had I had a bunch of minors and not a couple of majors, like, I would have been okay, and they might have let me keep going. But I knew when I came home that night that I was going to be done wrestling, which was gutting for me because I had 1 month left in our season to go to state and then hopefully win a state title and then go to college and wrestle. And then I went to the doctor that following week, and this doctor was the most lenient doctor in the world. Like, probably shouldn't say this, but he would just let, like, if you had a skin infection, which is a big thing in wrestling, and, like, he would just write you, like, a permission slip to, go and wrestle. Wow. So he was a very lenient doctor. And he was the guy you go to if you want to participate, and you probably shouldn't. And it's true. And, like, I went in there, and he sat down, and he's like, "You still having headaches? You still having?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah, I don't think I can put you back out on the mat." And I, like, didn't really realize what had just happened. And then he sent me over for a CT scan, and I just realized that moment, like, "Hey, you're done." Yeah. And then, like, he said ever. So, like, I wasn't able to wrestle again ever competitively. And I just remember sitting in the doctor's office crying with my mom because I just, there was a point of, if I'm not Johnny the wrestler, who am I? Yeah. Because that was really
your identity.
Who I was, and it was what was my dreams were to take me to college, and probably not go any farther than college, but, to pay for college or help with that wherever that went. And so right after that was when I really started to turn towards, just alcohol and girls and all of that kind of stuff, and just started to make some really poor decisions. And I started getting wrapped up in just things that I knew were wrong. And I could feel, like, when I was doing things, I was like, this isn't right. Yeah. Like, I know biblical truth, and I know what my parents have raised me, but at a certain point I didn't care, because my mindset was, if this God would take wrestling away from me, and this is the God who loves me, I don't want to follow that. Yeah. Because why would you do that to me? Like, this was, like, you gave me this gift, you gave me this ability, why would you take that away from me? Yep. And so I was just really just broken. And it kind of came to a point one time going into my senior summer where, like, there was just this moment in our living room where, like, my mom and dad just started pestering me with questions about the way I was living, whether it was, sexual immorality or alcohol.
So they noticed a shift.
They noticed my mindset was different. And I think originally they were concerned because I just had a concussion. So they were worried about my brain.
Yep.
But I think they heard things, like, it's a small town. Yep. So everything travels through the grapevine. So Johnny was at this party, just so you know, Sheila, like, your son was hammered. And so, like, it just came to a point, and they just asked me question after question after question, and I couldn't lie. Like, I'm to this day not a good liar, and I just, like, could not lie to them, and everything just came to boil to the surface, and stormed out of the house, didn't want to be there anymore, and was just broken. I didn't know where to turn, didn't know where to go to. Felt like my parents didn't understand me, which is, I feel like a lot of kids feel, especially when you're in high school or even college.
Yep.
And yeah, I was just at a loss. And so, of course, when I don't know what to do, I always turn to the same person, and that's Bob. And so I called my best friend Bob the next day, and we would do this thing where we would just drive around and we would talk for hours. And it was the day before a baseball game, and I just sat there and was talking with Bob about, all the mistakes I had made. And he didn't really know, because I felt like if I told him that he would view me differently. And I told him everything, and then he just, like, met me with grace and with love, and was like, hey, let's, get through this and work through this. And so that started the shift in my heart, but nothing really changed. So, like, that was the point where I felt guilty because I think I got caught.
Yeah.
And I felt guilty because I knew what I was doing was wrong in some way. And then nothing really changed for the rest of that summer. And so by the time I left for college, I was just ready to be done. Yeah. Like, I'm out of this house. I left early. I left before school even started because I just wanted to get out of the house. And so I left and went and worked a job and went to school and was doing all these things, and just kept doing what I was doing. And then my brother and sister continued to invite me to Salt Company in Cedar Falls, where it's a college organization that really pushes for the next generation of college students. And I went, and I was kind of like, these people are not weird, because sometimes I feel like some Christians can be, like, a little too, like, different, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. And there was this guy named Reed, and Reed sat down and talked with me. And Reed Smith is his name. Yeah. Yeah. He's awesome. I love Reed. To this day, he's one of my great friends. But I sat down and talked with Reed, and my brother kind of told Reed my backstory. So Reed and I walked through some things, and Reed just kind of lovingly was just, like, there for me. He wasn't like in my face saying, hey, you're a horrible person for what you have done. Yeah. But, like, this is what, like, the Bible says. And I know you know the Bible. Yeah. But I really was still rebellious. I didn't really want to give into surrendering my life to Jesus, because that's really what it was. I had to come to a point of, like, I know that there is truth in the Bible. I'm really rejecting him right now because of what he did to me in wrestling. And at a certain point, like, there's either going to be a surrender. Yeah. Either I'm going to surrender to Jesus, or I'm going to surrender to the world and just give up in that way. And so it was at a fall retreat, actually at Hidden Acres, where we go to our fall retreat, that my brother said, hey, I know you're working tonight, but you should just, like, drive out here and spend the weekend with us. And so I was not prepared for a fall retreat because I'd never been to a fall retreat. So I went with a pair of clothes, a pair of sweatpants and sweatshirt, and that was it. Nice. No clothing, no bedding, nothing.
Yep. No toothbrush,
nothing. Oh, literally nothing. I had nothing. But, like, I was at the point where I need something. Mm-hmm. Like, this isn't working. The world is not satisfying me. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it ever will, because if it would have done it by now. Yeah. And so I drove out there, and I don't know what happened, but, like, I just kind of came to the realization of what I'm doing isn't worth it. Yeah. It's just not. Like, every decision that I've made has not given me any more fullness of life. And it's actually taken life away from me and broken relationships and friendships. Yep. And And I just kind of like at that fall retreat, just like, all right, Jesus, I need you. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't continue to be mad at you mm-hmm. for what you did to my wrestling career. Because mm-hmm. in all reality, that wasn't going to be a career. I was going to go to college and wrestle and, whatever. Yep. I'm not like an Olympian. So I had to come to the realization of my reasons for being angry at him aren't valid. Mm-hmm. And I'll go into why that's true. But, and also like what I'm doing isn't good enough. Like it's not satisfying. Yeah. Like Jesus is the only thing that satisfies. Not that things aren't hard or following Jesus is hard. But there's more to life than just sex, drugs, and whatever, alcohol, whatever.
My immediate happiness.
Yeah, yeah. My instant
gratification.
Joy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's more to it than that.
Yep.
And I look back on that time and I think about, had I continued to wrestle, I probably would not have went to the college that I went to.
Yep.
Would not have been involved with the people that I got involved with, and my life would not have actually been changed. I probably would have been a lukewarm, mediocre Christian as far as surrendering my life to Jesus. Yeah. If I had gone to another college or another university or whatever it was, because that would have been my identity. So I personally needed to be stripped of who I was as a wrestler and as an athlete, and needed to hit rock bottom, and then needed to see that Jesus is the only thing that can pull you off of rock bottom. Yeah. So ever since that point in my life, I've been, just continually growing. I think I touched on it a little bit, like growing closer and closer to Jesus is like, there were some instant things that changed in my life. Like the big major things were like, hey, that needs to be mine. Like I feel like ever since I've come to truly know Jesus, because I think I understood the Bible and the certain truth. Like I could tell you all the answers, but I don't think there was a heart change until college.
Yeah.
Until I actually had to make it my own, and it wasn't my mom or my dad's faith, or my brother or my sister's faith.
Yep.
And I think ever since that point, Jesus has been saying, hey, that is mine. Like you can't, like that's not bringing you fullness of life, or like this needs to change, or this needs, he's been continually pruning and sanctifying us, which is what the whole process of becoming more like Jesus is, over and over again. And so it's been a slow process. It's been a tough process.
Yeah.
But it's also like a really healthy process. And so I think for the question of why do we follow Jesus?
Yeah.
Why do I follow Jesus? I think it comes from knowing that nothing else satisfies.
Yeah.
And everything else only leads to brokenness.
Yeah.
And for students, I mean, that's hard to see right now, because it's hard to see the actual negative effects until you can see into the future. And sometimes we only live for right now in this moment. And so from a person who has tried to satisfy on other things, like 100%, it doesn't work. Yeah. Like it just leads, and your stories,
I feel like our stories are very similar. How we got to surrendering to Jesus, obviously the situation was different, but what we went through, I feel like, is very similar. Mm-hmm. But it was the same thing. Yeah. Giving myself to those things, like identity stripped, giving myself to the world, realized it's not good enough. Mm-hmm. And then Jesus in his grace showed me who he was, showed you who he was, and we come to an understanding like, okay, yeah, Jesus, you're the best.
And I think you have to hit rock bottom, because you have to realize that you're not healthy. You're not okay. Like you're not living until you've accepted Jesus. Like there's a part of you that's, that's why when we do baptism, we do dead to sin and alive in Christ. Like we are dead to our flesh and who we are. Yeah. And we come alive in Jesus, because like we have to know that we need a savior.
Yes.
And it's total depravity and knowing that we need that.
Yep.
And so I hope that's not for everybody, but for me, I had to know that, because I always thought, like, I was going to talk about this earlier, like, but you were like, don't say it. So, but like, I was thinking about how we talk to our students, and really the three basic principles, I think, in a lot of people's minds of being a Christian is don't have sex before you're married,
Mm-hmm.
don't drink alcohol, and don't do any drugs.
Yeah.
If you do those 3 things, we got nothing more for you, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I think, like, I feel like that's what
And
a lot
if you
of people
read your
think.
Bible and you pray.
If you read your Bible, you know, you pray, you're good. Like,
Yeah.
you're a Christian. And that's not the point, because that's just moralism. That's just like moralistic deism.
Doing good things to get the favor of God.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to realize that being a Christian isn't just doing good things. It's growing more in love with Jesus.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
And to grow more in love with Jesus, you need to realize how much you need Jesus.
Yes.
And in order to realize you need Jesus, you need to know that we are sinners.
Totally.
And like we need grace.
Yep.
Because if you don't think you're a sinner,
Yep.
and you don't feel like you need grace, there's no need for Jesus.
Well, and that's the word that I kept thinking about in your story is just grace. Like even though, like you getting that concussion might have been something that you feel like you didn't deserve, which is what grace is, like getting something you don't deserve. Like that's God's grace in your life, because he took that away so that he could reveal himself to you and so that you could have a better understanding of the gospel, which to me is crazy. But like, just, listening to your story and all of the steps that you can just see God's hand in, the word grace just kept coming to my mind, where he, even in the midst of the rebellion and like, he still was like, I've got a plan for you. I've got a plan for you. Because now
he had to show, like, he literally had to like walk me, he had to break me down. Yeah. He had to strip away my identity. He had to walk me to people that could surround me and be like, I just think about the way that my parents handled the situation when they found out, and I think about Bob when he handled the situation, and then Reed, and like I just think about those people who handled that situation, and it was all grace. And so for me, it was like, that's radical grace, and that's only shown to me because they've been shown that by Jesus.
Right.
And so I think I just see his hand working in that, and like you said, it's all about grace. Like people, how they've interacted with me, his grace on like decisions in my life and where he led me to. It's a really cool story to look back on now, because I totally forget about it. You know, like I forget that at one point in time I was doing A, B, and C, and that was not leading me into relationship with Jesus and fullness of life. And it's just cool to see that Jesus rescues us from that and brings us to where we're at. And by no means perfect.
Wait, you're not perfect?
No, I'm not. Ask Jordan.
That's Jordan.
Just let her tell you.
By the way. Yeah.
That's my wife, by the way. By no means. But the process of sanctification slowly working in our lives, and for some of it was radical and quick, and it was like boom, like it was almost like instantaneous, like no, like that needs to be done now. And that only comes from reading scripture and knowing how Jesus lived his life and how he instructs us to live our lives. You know, it's not just like in my head I'm like, this is a great thing to do, you know. It's like, no, like we have instructions on how to live as little Christians, as little Christ followers. So
it's good, man. Radical grace. Radical grace.
Which is, I think it's so, we should be just talking about that all the time. Because I think it's needed now more than ever. Like forgiveness and grace. And
there are students that are listening to this that are really struggling and feel like God doesn't love them, which to me saddens.
It breaks my heart.
Yeah, it makes me sad. Yeah.
Because like, man, if you just think about who the people that Jesus interacted with throughout the Gospels and how broken they were, and yet he wasn't like stiff-arming them or turning a blind eye to them, or just like, you're kind of like a bad human. He was like, no, like, I am living water. You know? Come to me. And so I just think having a right perspective of Jesus as like, when he gives grace, it's not, hey, I gave you grace for this thing over here, and I'm going to lord it over you so that you obey me.
Totally.
It's like, no, I've already done the cross. It's done. It's paid for. Live free. Know that my blood was shed for you. and I call you mine.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so powerful to remember, because when you realize that you are a son or a daughter of the King, it changes the way that you view yourself and the way you live.
Totally. Yeah.
Because you're not like, well, I'm this broken person, so I'm always going to be broken, so I'm just going to keep living this way. It's like, no, like, I've been saved from that.
Yep.
My slate is wiped clean.
Yep. Yep.
And I need to live in that and not in my guilt and shame from before.
Yeah. So good, dude. That's great.
That's my story.
That's Johnny's story.
And somehow I ended up in Omaha. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I never thought I'd live in Omaha.
I didn't either, but I did think
are.
It's crazy. So this is my last thought. So when I came and visited Omaha when I was a sophomore in college, because we came to the Omaha Zoo, we were coming back from Colorado.
Classic. And
I remember driving over I-80 over the whole town, and I remember telling my mom, I'm like, you know what? I could live in Omaha. I feel like it's
really
nice. Yeah, 100%. She could tell you about that.
What?
That's Before cool. I even like heard about moving here.
That's cool.
My mom was like, would you ever want to live in Omaha? I was like, I think so, yeah. I don't know why Omaha came up, but it was just what it was.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Now you're here.
Very weird that I'm here. And it's crazy. But.
Yeah. And now we're youth pastors.
And we're talking into microphones.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, thanks, Johnny, for sharing your story. And hope you...
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. I hope you listen to the whole thing. Like we said last time, we want to continue to do these podcasts probably every other week. We kind of fell out of a little bit of a rhythm, but we want to be in a rhythm. So just be continuing to look on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. That is super helpful. And then click that bell so that when we actually upload a video... I know I sound like
you sound like one of the...
Click that bell. But for real.
Beats the algorithm.
Yeah, so that you know when we post a new video. Also, hit the thumbs up button and share it with your friends, because this might help them too. So, yeah. We love you guys. And we'll see you next time. Peace out.